Hello, welcome to the next episode of She Runs a Business podcast. Today, I have an honor and privilege to have an amazing person, healer, coach, mother, my dear friend, Wendy B. King. Wendy, thank you so much for being on the show. Today, we are going to explore your beautiful story of resilience, healing, and how you use your story to empower others to heal and bring peace to their hearts. Wendy, thank you so much for being on my show. Thank you. Thank you. It's my honor to have you here.
Thank you, Nina. And as a person like yourself that is trying to bring peace and healing to so many people in the world, that is my mission, is to just help at least one person. And I know I've already done that, but sometimes, especially when you lose a child, you just feel like your life is meaningless, or where do you go from now, and who even understands me? So if there's any parent out there that is feeling lost, lonely, misunderstood, sad, crushed, please listen, because I hope what I have to share will give you a little bit of peace.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much. When I heard your story, it was 3, 4 months ago during the interview with our amazing friend Sanette. Um, Your story touched my heart deeply, and I knew I wanted to have you on my podcast because I truly believe that your story can really inspire people, bring healing and peace to parents, to people around the world who not only lost their loved beloved child, but also who lost a very close family member, a friend, because the story you share in the book is so powerful, it's so healing, it's so transformational. And we got on a call to talk about you being on my podcast. You sent me this beautiful book, Why Me? This is a best-selling book on Amazon. And she sent me this beautiful book from New Zealand to Austria in Europe. And I read this book. I cried. It's a book that helps you release a lot of emotions, heal, and find the courage to move forward with your life. And for everybody who is really trying to find peace after losing their loved ones, a friend, family member, this is really the great book to start. And Wendy, thank you so much for being on my show. Today we are going to talk about your story of resilience, healing, and how you turn your deepest pain into your biggest motivation to help people change and heal. And this is something I truly, truly honor you for that. Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you.
work you do. Wendy, I would love to start with your story. Who is Wendy? What you do, how you help people. And I also want to ask you to share your beautiful story that you wrote on the page 5 of your book, who is the right person to help you heal. I think this is such a powerful story for everybody who is looking to bring peace and healing to them. This is a beautiful story that Wendy is going to share with us.
Thank you, beautiful Nina. Um, I want to, before I introduce myself, I just want to share a quote from Napoleon Bonaparte. He said, "Courage isn't having the strength to go on, it's going on when you don't have the strength." And for many years, that was me. I was going on when I really felt like I didn't want to be here. I am a mother of, I say, five, four living, one deceased, because Emma will always be part of me. She is part of me. And I have transformed my pain recently, in the recent years, into helping others grow, to heal, to feel understood, to understand what their body is. I'm a life coach, transformational coach. I've been called a game changer coach. I've been called a miracle worker. Um, I've had people just feel that they can live with peace and hope and have a new perspective of life about how to live with the loss of their loved one without feeling consumed by the pain. So that is my mission. Pain is inevitable. Suffering, we can do something about. So I'm not saying to anybody, I'm going to take away your pain. What I am saying is that my message is for you to feel heard, to be seen, to feel validated for what you're feeling, but also give you the tools and the privacy to heal without feeling that you shouldn't be feeling this way, or you're just to harden up, or just get on with life. You cannot heal from this type of pain without assistance and without understanding. And that is, so I just started doing the research 4 years ago. I was asking a lot of questions. I was going to doctors. I went to a counselor. I was asking for questions why I had 4 beautiful children and I still felt intense hurt, intense pain, intense suffering, and I was literally numbed out. And no one could give me the answers. They just said, that's how it is. You know, it knocks you around, and we'll give you some medication. And I needed it to actually take out the intensity, but I felt like we weren't getting to the problem. You know, it was a bandage. And what I've understood and found in my research and in my book is all from doctors who have dedicated their life in the last 20, 30 years, who investigated what trauma is, what it does to the body. And so when you have lost a loved one or a child or a spouse, you have suffered a trauma. And I know that some people throw the word trauma around, but the word trauma, when it's translated in Latin, it means wound. And it's not something that happens to us, it's something that happens inside of us. So it's a full-on mind-body experience. So when I'm coaching anybody, I do one-to-one training as well for those that need extra help, whether it's for grief, trauma, or relationship issues, because again, such an event can impact your nearest and dearest. So you feel like you cannot support each other because you're dealing with your own grief. So it is understanding that what you're feeling is like you've been in a head-on accident, and that you are going to need that time to recover. But because we don't have a big bandage that we can put around our head or a big bandage on our leg, people just assume that we just need to get on and, you know, we're fine, when inside we feel like we're dying, and actually can feel that we have a fear of living, because we know that intense loss, we're scared of it happening again, because we're wondering, will I be able to cope with it?
Wendy, can we go a little bit deeper into symptoms? Because so many people who are listening or watching this episode, they are going to like say, okay, I'm not alone. There are some symptoms happening to my body, in my mind, and there are some fears I feel. Can we go really deep into that to explain people who lost their loved ones, what symptoms they have, like, and are they like completely normal thing that happened to us after we suffered from trauma, and how can we deal with that?
Absolutely. And I have a whole section on trauma in my book, in lesson number 3. It's called The Missing Piece. My little blurb at the beginning says it all, by Dr. Beazle van der Kolk. Trauma is the ultimate experience of this will last forever. You feel hopeless. You feel like you're never gonna feel happy again. Here are some of the symptoms that I've listed. Afraid of feeling, helplessness, your heart races, you're heartbroken, distracted, trouble focusing and prioritizing, anxiety, depression, self-loathing, nightmares, flashbacks, foggy brain, shut down, numb, feeling you are physically and mentally vacant in your body, exhausted, disengaged with your surroundings, muscle pain, grinding your teeth, on high alert. The other thing is that has a profound feeling is you can feel so tired, exhausted, and lethargic because you are suppressing your symptoms, which is affecting your nervous system. And your nervous system is there to as a protection. You know, a lot of people hear the fight, flight, freeze effects. When you are on high alert or feeling that you're getting ready for the next attack, you are putting your body under stress, and it is exhausting. And if you don't know how to deal with the anxiety and the hopelessness and all those symptoms I've just listed, all of those that I have listed are everything I've felt. Heartbroken, I just wanted to say in my story, I mentioned too that within a week of my daughter dying, I developed this chest pain, and it was so intense that every time I took a breath, it felt like a sharp knife was going into my heart, and it was there all the time. And in the end, I decided I better go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor and I explained the symptoms, and she said to me, you're suffering from a broken heart, Wendy. And that's exactly how I felt. My heart was broken. I felt that when Emma died, a piece of me died. And early on as well, I talk about in my book, I actually would pray at night for God to just take me because I was so sad, so lost. And that pain lasted for nearly 5 months. And it was like somebody had put their hand inside my body and grabbed my heart and was squeezing it. That was the pain. Every time I just took a deep breath, that would literally stop me in my tracks. And I said to the doctor, am I going to die? And she says, no, Wendy, you're fit and healthy, you won't die, but people can die from it. And that's why sometimes you hear, older people that have lost their partner just go, right, that's it, I'm done. Because they've literally died of a broken heart. So I, I ask anybody when they have severe symptoms, and especially if you feel suicidal, to please reach out and get support from your doctor. Unfortunately, one of the things I haven't mentioned in this book, but recent research I've been learning about, is that most doctors that go through medical training don't usually even have one lecture on trauma, the effects of trauma. They're there to look at the body, heal the, if you've got a broken leg, if you've got the flu, they're there to prescribe medication. They're not there to understand the whole mind-body connection. So they will refer you to somebody who can help or give you medication. But it's, as I say to my clients, the problem is not the problem. It's a symptom of the problem that we have. And so to really heal and to really understand what's going on, we, just like anything, we need to get to the root of it before we improve. Otherwise, it's literally like we have this wound that is festering that we don't want anybody to touch or not because it's too painful.
Wendy, when people suffer from trauma after losing their loved ones, what are the first steps they can take to help themselves?
The one thing you need to understand is that if anybody says to you, oh, this is grief and these are the stages, it's nonsense, okay? Yes, there's emotions you're going to feel. You'll feel guilty, numb, angry. There's all these emotions, okay? You're gonna feel like it's an emotional roller coaster. The one thing, if you can, is to accept that you are going to feel all over the place. You are going to feel all over the place, but the best thing you can have is a support system, and whether it's just one person or two people who don't want to fix you, who will be there to hold you, to let you cry, to let you feel, to just listen. One of the best things we can do as a friend is actually listen, deep listening, not be uncomfortable, not making it about you. It is about helping the person who is really hurting to be seen and heard. That can make such a difference in their journey of healing from that suffering. If you don't have that support, that is what is going to make your life feel impossible, or you cannot see the light. And that is why I wrote the book as well, because not everybody has somebody that understands a support system. So I wrote the book because I wanted somebody to feel that if they had no one to understand, that they did have at least someone to understand. And if anybody wants to explore this further, because a lot of what happens in a situation like that is it raises old childhood wounds as well that we have suppressed, that also need attention. And that's where I can also help you with your journey.
You mentioned something very important here. You need to have a support. And very often people want to help, but they
Mhm.
don't know how to help. Very
Yes,
often we have a lot of help from people who ask a lot of questions, who give us advice that we don't want in that moment.
yes, yeah,
What is the best way for friends and family members to support that person in that moment?
right. Okay. So I just wanted to mention just one thing before we do that, is that one of the most painful things that I felt that I didn't understand was that I was expecting my parents to help me get through this, right? I was thinking my brother, my sister would help me get through this. I was thinking my auntie would help me, my closest family members. I was expecting my husband to that we would help each other. Here's the thing, is that a lot of our nearest and dearest have never been able to express or feel their emotions. So therefore, when they look at us and they see our pain, they want to shut us down. So they will say things like, it's okay, we're here, you've just got to get on with it. You've just got to get on with it. That is not helpful. But what I'm trying to say here is that this is not about blame. Parents can't give, or people cannot give what they don't have. And so if any parent is listening and feels like I can't give this emotional support, at least give the support of I'm here, I'm not going to fix you. You don't have to give advice. You don't, it's the fact that we need someone to hold us, to just be there, not to say things like you need to pray harder or God took you needed another angel or you can have other children. All those things are like sticking a knife in and twisting it. It is not helpful. And if I can be as blunt and straightforward, is that is you, the friend, not coping with how you're feeling, and it's uncomfortable for you. So in your uncomfortableness, you feel that you need to say something that will help, but actually it hurts. It's better to say nothing. What you can do is just offer to come round and sit with them. Watch a movie. You don't have to talk, or you can listen. Cook some meals because you don't feel like eating, you don't feel like going anywhere, you really don't want to face the world. So if you can, and even if you can do a roster to help clean the house, because really in those early days, months, you just want to stick your head under the covers and not want to come out. And that is normal. Um, the biggest problem is that if we're not given that space or that time or understanding to heal, that's when we can turn to addictions. We can turn to drugs, we can turn to alcohol, because we do go back to work and we actually just turn into workaholic because we can't cope with the pain. So it's so important that we allow ourselves and give ourselves that time to feel and be validated for those emotions. Because as soon as if you feel comfortable that you can literally cry your heart out to feel this is so painful, you're unconsciously healing your body. You're releasing all that anxiety, all that tension, all that anger out. So your body is actually, it's not holding on to it, it's actually letting it all out. A word of advice too is if you can try and have different friends, because you don't want to exhaust your friends of, oh, you don't want to lose friendships because you're always using that same friend to grieve and cry. So, but allowing yourself to feel and know that everything you're feeling is exactly how you should be.
Thank you so much for sharing. In your book, you also share your four-step process to heal after losing loved ones. Can you talk a little bit about that? What are the stages of healing?
Yes. When I was going through my healing journey, um, it started off by understanding what was happening to my body. So I have a little roadmap, um, helping us to understand what's happening to our body. And that's why I talk about our nervous system, what happens in our mind, the stories we tell ourselves. Because a lot of things too is I didn't mention was I felt a lot of guilt when my daughter died. It was the first time she died. She was supposed to have an operation the next day, and um, the doctors insisted that I go home, have a good night's sleep, and come and see her because she was first on the list on the morning. And it was the first night I had been separated from her since she had been home. And I felt like I had abandoned her. So there is so many emotions that you can feel. It's understanding why you feel that way and knowing that blaming yourself is actually not helping yourself. It is, again, the mind scrambling for the answers. So again, that second part of my book helps you understand about your nervous system, your mind, how your mind operates. And, you know, you're actually suffering a trauma. The second is accepting. That's really tough. What I mean by that is wishing and hoping that things could have been different is stopping you from your body holding on to, it shouldn't have happened to me. Acceptance is letting go of how we expected our life to be. Because in schools, we're taught, you know, who do you want to be? What sort of career do you want? We early on we learn about, you know, the prince and the princess, that you grow up, you find somebody, you get engaged, you get married, you have children, they grow up, and we just have this expectation that's been planted in here that everything will be honky-dory, that everything will turn out and there'll be no tragedies, there'll be nothing. We never hear any of that. So that what happens is when something as life-changing as this happens, it literally freaks us out, and we feel completely lost and stuck and go, well, if my identity was based on being a mother and my life being a certain way and it hasn't turned out that way, where do I go from there? So it's understanding that we never know what's going to happen to us, and understanding that this is the reality of life. It doesn't mean that our life is over. It doesn't mean that our love for that person, our loved one, because they're not here, doesn't mean it's over. And that's what I refer to in on page 93. Maurice Swartz wrote a book, and I'll just come to that in a wee minute. But the other part is feeling and healing, that your body is designed to feel your emotions, and suppressing them is causing you suffering. Again, a lot of our parents we've had, you know, 3 generations of our grandparents and parents, survivors of the war. How they cope was to shut down, to get on with life. And so it was a coping mechanism. However, coping mechanisms, and again, the research is showing that when we just go into coping and shut down our emotions, we are causing all sorts of diseases in our body. That women are actually more prone to so many autoimmune diseases. We're dying earlier because we are suppressing our emotions. So we need to understand that, how to feel and sit and express our emotions and not just shut down. And the fourth step is growth, is learning. Our growth as a person, it's, you know, when you go into a relationship or have a life-changing event like this is when you learn so much about yourself that you never even knew. How would you know how you were going to be or cope? And we have 2 options. We have 2 options. We put the walls up and we go, my life is done, I'm never going to be happy again, and stay in a trance and not live. Or we we come to the realization that this doesn't just happen to us, this happens to so many people, that what we're feeling and thinking is normal, that we have to give ourselves time to heal, that it's okay to have good days and bad days. What has this taught me about myself? It takes a lot of strength and courage to overcome such a loss. Again, I just wanted to share my mantra before I started writing my book. It was, the hardest part wasn't losing you. The hardest part was living without you. By the time I was on my third editing part of my book, it hit me why I was doing this again. And it was because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a difference to someone's life, that they didn't feel alone, that what they were feeling was okay, to understand what was happening, to actually take control back of your life by accepting what had happened and allowing you to be disappointed, to feel sad, to feel angry. But what would happen if you believe that you see your loved one again? What would happen if your loved one said to you, Wendy, Mama, Dad, I'm really disappointed because my life was cut short and you chose to just do nothing with your life. You chose to just wallow in your pain when you could have gone and learned how to sail. You could have visited another part of the world. You could have helped somebody else. You could have, learned a new skill. I would have loved the opportunity to do that. And yet your sadness overtook you. You let your sadness overtake you. So my new mantra then became, I am living for you, not dying because of you. What would my partner, what would my mother, what would my daughter be so proud of that I did with my life? So that they could see, they could know that I could overcome this adversity, but love them as if they were beside me and championing me on. That they were never going to go anywhere. They are part of me, will always be part of me. And I'm going on this journey spiritually. And that is one thing that I wanted to share with regarding death. In my book on page 95, death ends a life, it doesn't end a relationship. Maury Swartz, in his book Tuesday with Maury, says, as long as we can love each other and remember the feeling of love we had, you can die without really ever going away. All the love you created is still there. All the memories are still there. You live on in the hearts of everyone you have touched and nurtured while you were here. Death ends a life. It does not end a relationship. So one of the biggest requirements for our new journey is a willingness to let go of the attachment to your current experience of life. So that is letting go of what you expected it to be, how it should have been in your mind. and realizing there is another way and there is still life after the death of a loved one. It is just knowing how. And
Thank,
that takes me to my parable.
thank you, Wendy, for sharing your inspiring story, inspiring method for everybody to hear. It's a very deep emotional process, as you mentioned. Um, for everybody who is going through this really, really hard time in their life, I'm sending them lots of love. I know that you will need a lot of support, a lot of courage to go through this process. And just a few years ago, I lost a very close family member, and at that moment, that was really hard time for me. And one of my mentors said during that period of time, like I was going to different spiritual healers and listening what they're teaching, and I learned a very specific tool from my mentor himself, who said like when person dies, he or she takes the whole energy with him or her. And that's why we actually miss the energy that was part of us. And we constantly exchange energies with other people. He taught us very powerful tool. We were class, and he taught us very powerful tool to create a beautiful rose, one for yourself, one for the person who passed away, and collect all your energy in one rose and collect all other person's energy in another rose and let both roses explode. And do that process a couple of times to help you feel better, to help you feel that relief, instant relief, and help you get strength to start your healing journey and start really releasing and exploring the pain within you. And for everybody who is listening, try that. I taught that tool to so many clients, and they really felt instant relief. And what's also very important, you get your energy back to move forward with your life and start really deep healing process, which is really, really important in such a really tragic moment. Wendy, you mentioned something during the conversation today that a lot of couples have hard time surviving this, losing child or losing family member. And the reason is not because they don't love each other. The reason is because both of these people have a different coping mechanism with trauma. Can you share
Um,
more about that?
from a deep personal view, that's what again, it was just another unexpected pain that came with losing our daughter. I I needed to be hugged and cry and felt that my husband was going to make it okay because I was looking for strength within him. For some reason, thinking, that he was going to be stronger about this than me, because he cried, but not cried as much as I did, and he he was in so much pain himself. He couldn't express it, and again, coming from a generation of boys aren't girls. If you cry or show any emotion, you're weak. Um, which meant his emotions were trapped in his body, which meant that he was feeling such intense pain and he couldn't even verbalize how much pain he was in. And why I would think that he wouldn't be feeling it as much as I would is bizarre, really. But that is how I thought, because again, I was raised to think that men were stronger than women emotionally, and that, they could protect us, keep us safe. But in fact, he was feeling the same trauma as me. So I was looking to him to be my safe place to help me, to understand me, but equally he was struggling with his own loss, and he couldn't cope with me feeling so sad, because he was also feeling so sad that not only was he'd lost his daughter, his wife wasn't the happy-go-lucky girl that he married. Where's she gone? So he was looking at me to, like, we'll get through this. We can overcome anything. We're strong. And I couldn't. So he this is again, everybody that knows what I'm talking about, this is life changing. It affects your whole person. It affects who you are, your spirit, your life force, your energy. And so he wanted me back to be, the woman who was organized, controlled, happy, outgoing. And I couldn't be that person. And I needed someone who was strong, hold me, say it's going to be okay, that couldn't give that to me. And it caused so much pain because, again, you have no idea how you're going to be in a situation like that. Nothing can prepare you for that. We had never lost like an animal, a family pet. We hadn't lost a very dear family member. So this was our first introduction to losing a child that we expected to outlive, not the other way around. So, it's a parent, I still say it, a parent, the reality is a pet, a parent should never outlive a child, but the reality is that's what happens. And especially with what happens all around the world, with wars, we see so many children dying. We see so many kids now, like there's more mass shootings in America. There's more than one mass shooting in America a day now. I mean, how traumatic is that for parents, not knowing if their children is gonna, or their child is gonna come home. And then we're supposed to carry on and pay the bills, be a contributing member to society, and having your whole world, blown up in your face. So what happens is that if your partner cannot get sort of outside support for him, and you support for yourself, and here's the thing, is that usually with girls, we have our girlfriends, where a lot of guys don't have. Some do have their man friends, go fishing, riding, shooting, or whatever. But there's a lot of men that don't. And so they feel so isolated, and they have this shame of feeling that if they show their emotions, that they're weak and they're vulnerable. And it is really helping men to also understand, and I have a whole chapter dedicated to men about that. Just because we carried the child, I am validating them. I am saying, just because you didn't carry the child doesn't mean to say that your pain is not as much as our pain. It is. And that it's okay to cry. It is okay to feel. To actually be vulnerable is a strength, because guess what? You are showing yourself at the most vulnerable situation, where you're opening yourself up for judgment, but who cares? Whose opinion do you need? You're allowed to feel what you're feeling. you need to feel what you're feeling. It's, you're part of, there's a child that you brought into the world, a little bit of you, a little bit of your wife, a little bit of your dad, that's gone. Or if your partner that you've spent many years with, or a parent that you've had a really, really close relationship with, who's taught you about life, who has been there for your celebrations, for your bad times, that you can't just pick up the phone and they're not going to walk through the door. And you need to be able to know how to grieve all that, to feel all that, to release all that. Otherwise, when you suppress all that and don't get the help or support you need, you are going to hurt each other. And you can hurt each other by saying things, you don't understand me, or drink yourself into a state of not feeling, and it causes a whole nother set of problems. So for me, our relationship was very tight, and then it became very strained for years, even with having other children, because there was always that fear of, what if one dies again? And one of the biggest things I had to learn again was, we want to be able to control our life. We want to be able to know what's happening. And guess what? We can only plan what we would like to happen, but we cannot control events in our life. The only thing we can do is control the way we respond to them.
That's so beautifully said.
So, that is something that is, just, it is what it is.
Wendy, can you please share with people how they can work with you, how they can find you, and tell us more about that?
Sure. So my website is wendybkingslifecoaching.com. If you search in Google Wendy B. King, there'll be many videos that come up with life coach, that you can contact me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. You can even email me if you wish. I would answer your email as soon as I can. My email is Wendy King, WENDYKING @extra, which is xtra.co.nz. You only know what you know, okay? And I can, the testimonials I've had a few testimonials come in about my book from people who have said they could not put my book down. They felt like I was talking directly to them. I've had people say to me, it's also available on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle, paperback or hardback. I specifically wanted it to be in hardback so that you could feel the book. I've designed it to, like, it's a resource to cuddle, because I've got some beautiful quotes in there, places for you to write your thoughts. You can literally open the book up at any place and read and not feel like you've lost anything. That is the other thing that I've had people say to me, is that I've just literally just picked up the book and I'm going, I need to read that. I need to read something again, and just started reading, and just, it's not like you've had to go right back to the beginning again. That there is so many new perspectives. You're just not taught about this in schools. You just, and your parents and people that are close to you don't know this information because, again, here's the thing. I was searching for answers. I was going to the doctors. I was going to counselors. I was going, please help me understand what's happening to me. Please help me understand. And no one had the answers. All they said was, yes, it's one of the worst things a parent could experience. I don't know how you do it. That is not going to help me. What we what I've tried to help you understand in the book is that I want you to feel as if or relate to what's happened to you. I want you to, it feels like you can't justify how you feel because nobody can see the inner pain, suffering, right? So if we've got to be very kind and compassionate to ourselves if others can't. Now, what I mean by that is, say you were in a car crash and it was a head-on car crash and you broke, you know, you had broken ribs, you broke your arms, you broke your legs, you had a head injury. Now, I know from past experience that a friend of mine was in a serious car accident. They were in hospital for 6 months. 6 months, and it was, they had a physio. They were getting x-rays all the time. They were getting their meds looked at. They were having the surgeon come and see them. They were having other people come in to check their well-being, da 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 da. They were told this is gonna take, you know, months, if not years, for you to come right. You will never be what you were, but you will eventually get there. So, you know, you've got to allow yourself, you know, 2 or 3 years of even getting back to where you were. Now they've got all that support. They've got all that direction, all that hand holding. What do we have? We don't have any of that. And yet, what we've experienced is a trauma. Just because it hasn't been a head-on car crash, we have experienced a trauma. So if you can allow yourself some kindness and compassion and not beat yourself up about how you should be feeling and what you should be doing, please give yourself that time. And the one thing again about my book is that there will be parts of it that you'll read the first time and go, oh my gosh, that is me. And then you will go back, and depending on where you are in your journey, as you'll read it again and you'll go, oh, I missed that point. I missed that point. Oh my goodness. And so because of you reprogramming your brain and helping yourself understand is all part of the journey. And that's what I talk about as well, is that our emotions, we're not taught that how our brain is wired. And you know this as babies. We are designed to feel and act first before we think. We are biologically wired. We are emotional creatures. And yet, we are told our emotions are not acceptable, that they're shut down, that they're not explained or encouraged even as a child. So who we are, what we are, and how we're designed is actually not acceptable or not being encouraged because our parents, grandparents didn't have the manuals to know. Okay, so it's again not about blame, but it's actually going, hello, this is new information that's coming out and it makes so much sense. And one of the biggest things is when you feel understood, validated, seen, and I see you and I feel you. It, it means so much. So I want to leave that with you, because I have also done so much research, recent research on child development and how we, what emotions we're allowed to have, not allowed to have, and how we develop as a child, how we became resilient in life so that when we have life-changing events like this, it's still life-changing, but we're not overcome or consumed by the pain of it.
I just want to say thank you, Wendy, for the work you do. Thank you for writing this beautiful book that is going to heal so many people. Why Me is available on Amazon. Wendy, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for the work you do. Everybody who is listening or watching, please reach out to Wendy if you need her help. She's an amazing person. She has a beautiful heart. She's a great coach. And she is a person who deeply, deeply understands your pain. And everybody who is going through this really hard time in their life, we are sending them lots of love. We pray and hope everything is going to be okay for you. We are sending you a lot of love, a lot of blessings. And until next time, be brave, shine your light, because the world needs that love and light inside of you more than ever. I'm sending you lots of love and big hug. Bye.